Здравствуйте, привет, как дела? All right. So Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which one can use to change our world. As you know, unfortunately, because of our world history and even current practices, not every child has actually been equipped with this powerful tool. And so my hope today is that we will recognize that, one, all children deserve a high quality education, and I will also go into a couple steps of how that kind of comes into existence into some schools. So as I think about sort of that expectation, I think about Stephen Covey, who once said, if you treat a man as he is, he will remain as he is. But if you treat a man as if he if you treat a man as he can and should be, then he will become what he can and should be. A lot of times we see children either in poverty, or we look at a gender, or we see children with special needs. Children, my sort of expertise is with our most marginalized populations, children who are even incarcerated, and we kind of see them as trouble kids. My argument is that they probably have yet to been exposed to a high quality education program like STEAM that provides hands-on learning experiences for them. And so my hope is, as you sit here, you all are sort of ready to take on the all. And so I'm going to sort of take that as like, all right, let's go. Let's get ready. So a couple benefits of STEAM education. One, it definitely taps into students' multiple intelligences when you think about Howard Gardner's work. The other is that students actually take on real-world challenges. They take ownership of what they're doing. And then it allows the content, which is already sort of explained in terms of the acronym of STEAM, it allows the content to then be applied to real-world context, which is also really important. And then, you know, it's really important that you all understand that this is a growing profession, and it's a lot to do with what students are doing in schools. That what we're seeing is that there are more students now who have bachelor's degrees in one of the STEM or STEAM fields, and typically students within those fields or graduates within those fields are earning about 25% more than their non-STEM partners. In terms of the effective components of STEM, again, students do take on real-world challenges or problems. It provides all students with hands-on experiences. This really does tap into students' sort of natural curiosities. And a component, I'm not sure if you're familiar with project-based learning, that primarily comes out of the Buck Institute, but it's similar in the sense that it provides students voice and choice. And the same way that you all came here today, you kind of got to choose what you wanted to sit in. It's important that we also give our students choice in that, in terms of what they take on. Also, what was sort of mentioned already, it really does tap into the communication skills. Sorry, I feel like I'm eating the microphone, so I apologize. It seems like we're also important to tap into the communication skills, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking skills, and also problem-solving skills. So again, really, really important skills for our youth, children to be immersed in from a very early age. And then I think this is a really important piece. Sometimes we might not think about it for children or young learners, but the reflection and the feedback piece is really, really important. And so that's also another piece of STEM. As I think about that, I also think about Steve Jobs and what he said, that design is not just what it looks like or what it feels like, but it's how it works. And so this is a really important piece in terms of the reflection and feedback. I think about Ardress and Schoen, their work back in the 1970s, which talks about sort of the theory of change and there being a feedback loop. And so it's really important that we establish an environment where it's not, this was said in sort of an earlier session about Carol Dweck's sort of mindset, that we are actually helping students to develop growth mindsets so that, and adults to develop growth mindsets. I, as a teacher, might plan a great lesson. It may not work, but I can't just give up. I have to think about what went wrong and sort of make my adjustments. We want our students to be able to do that as well. So in terms of like school implementations, I just want to provide you with a couple of examples of how some schools have sort of came into this. I would say STEM initially kind of came in big, more around like 2005, 2006, depending on where you were. And then sort of STEAM kind of took into that, again, that arts component a couple years after that. So you have to understand that even in the United States, these are kind of happening in stages. So in some schools, it was just, we're gonna have an after-school program. Some schools just found a teacher maybe, or an expert sort of within the community who was really into sort of STEM, STEAM, and they created these after-school programs and saw how excited the children became, and then that sort of launched into, okay, we're gonna do something bigger, better. Other schools kind of appoint a STEAM coordinator or a lead teacher to kind of coordinate those efforts. In other schools, they kind of take on also that project-based learning where it's just, okay, here are 2 projects that we're gonna take on during the year, and sort of that's how that happens. While other schools say this is the full curriculum, and they begin to actually plan lessons based on that full hands-on real world, sort of taking on those real world challenges. And yet there are some schools who have just in their entire structure truly designed their space to embrace STEAM. So just some tips, strategies for implementing STEAM within your schools. One, make sure that you have a clear vision of what it is that you're trying to do or accomplish, again, from the adults and the children. At the Harvard Graduate School of Education, I still remember when I was a student there working on my doctorate, our dean at the time used to say, at the ed school, we're at the nexus of practice, research, and policy, and I find that I always kind of look at things from those 3 prongs. And so it's really important that you approach this, that you do your research on this, that you also see what policies sort of might need to change to make this happen. But the key piece also is the practice piece. So making sure that your practitioners actually receive the training and support that they need to be successful is also going to be really important. Additionally, you want to establish internal and external partners. You may have parents who are very much involved in one of these strands and are excited, and so having them as sort of thought partners at the table. You might partner with a university or even just sort of like outside people within the community that can also kind of serve as partners. And then you do want to develop a welcoming sort of space and environment for your children. I just realized that one slide sort of, sorry, I just realized I didn't mention maker spaces. I'll just mention that here. You want to design a welcoming space for your students. So one other thing that I forgot to mention on the last slide is that some schools have also created maker spaces. That means it could just be a closet, but in other places it's sort of a bigger space where there are 3D printers and laser printers and sewing machines and hardware, hammers, but also soft fabrics and material and sewing, just to also sort of create, again, that maker space that students feel like they're inventing and creating. So you do want to create a welcoming space. And then lastly, just one other strategy is just to celebrate the work. And so celebrate them as inventors, celebrate the inventions. Some schools have partnered with local universities. They actually have some type of STEAM sort of challenge where children actually present their real world problem and what they've devised to actually solve their real world problem. And so that also contributes to success in that. And so lastly, I just want to leave you with this thought. So there's a school called the Marymount School in New York City. It is an all-girls private school, pre-K, so which is sort of like 3-4-year-olds up through 12th grade. And they actually got started with STEM and STEAM. They created a what they refer to as their Fab Lab, which was a digital fabrication space in 2012. They have now grown to 4 different labs within their schools where, again, students take on real world problems. They create designs and prototypes, and they then share that with all who sort of come there. This quote is actually from Lisa Wang. She is their STEM coordinator and also their arts teacher. And her biggest piece is that they wanted students to be engaged in real world problems, that they would take on the ownership of things that actually matter to them. And they realized that through doing that, the passion has risen, as well as just a pure joy and delight. And according to Lisa Wang, she believes that is real happiness. And so I also sort of echo that with her. And I just, again, want to stress to you all that every child really can, if we believe that they can, and we should never allow what sort of the exterior looks like or where they might live to sort of determine who we actually provide these rich quality learning experiences for. Thank you.
Thank you so much.